So this is our fourth annual agricultural symposium. This year we decided to get down to the level, even to the dirt, and honor our gardeners this year. So my name is Dr. Sharon Stowers. I'm on faculty here at HCC, but I've also been running a research project in the county. I've been so delighted to work with all our agricultural people on a special project that celebrates Harford's farms and food. And so this is part of that big mission of taking a look at how well we grow here. So did you like the free breakfast that we gave you? How about the vendors? Yeah! Don't let them go with anything home. Buy it all, okay? Because then I'm going to come around and buy what's left, and my husband's pocketbook is going to be drained. Okay. All righty. Well, so we want to thank our sponsors, especially Harford County Government. That's so wonderful to fund our symposiums every year and paid for that free breakfast and everything else we're going to do for you today. As a matter of fact, make sure you stay to the end because we have some special gifts for you at the end. That you'll be surprised about. We want to thank Harford Community College. I've been working here for 18 years, and it's just a wonderful place to work. We also want to thank the Mill, who have sponsored us and given us some of the swag that you have in your swag bags and some other great things that you'll get later. And so we're going to have a wonderful time today. And so let's start by me introducing to you our college president, Dr. Teresa Felder.
Good morning to all of you. And I want to start by saying, before Dr. Stowers disappears behind the curtain, how much I appreciate her and the work that she does. She is an outstanding faculty member, but she's also dedicated to this community and dedicated to our ag community. So would you give her another really big round of applause? I'll add that she was recently recognized as our faculty spotlight. So I got to introduce her to the board and talk about all the great things that she's done. So we absolutely love her. So again, welcome to the college. I should stop saying the new president, because it's been a year and 3 months now. So I'm no longer going to say the new president, but I will say I am the proud president of Harford Community College. I love this community. I love that there's so much diversity, that we have rural areas where I drive to work and I go by farms, and then I go downtown and it's more suburban. There's just something for everyone. So I love being in this community. And thank you to all of you that have warmly welcomed me here. If I have not had an opportunity to meet you, I would love to meet you. On the weekends, I dress like this because I'm a walking billboard for the college. And as I'm out in the community, I love it when someone says, my kids went there, my grandkids are there, I took a class there. There's so many associations, almost everybody. So if you have some association, you've taken a class, a member of your family has taken a class, you've just been on this campus, would you raise your hand? Just about everybody in here. I love that, absolutely love it. And I hope that that continues, because I believe so much in what this college does and the impact that it can have on this community. So thank you all so much. I am today honored to be here. I am a plant-based eater, and so I love plants. And so there's a lot that I could learn, though, but I'm happy that this opportunity exists, and I have such respect for the agricultural community here in this county. So again, thank you for being here. I'm not going to hold you up. I have the honor of introducing County Executive Glassman today. He is a huge supporter. I'm heartbroken that I've only spent a year and a few months, and I know that he'll be leaving office, but he's a huge support of this college and has done so much. And from the moment I met him, he showed me such warmth, and he was one of the first people to welcome me to the county. And he's done such great things and continues to support not just the work that we do here for our students and our families, but our employees. he wants to make sure that they're always taken care of. So I appreciate you so much. And we're not going to end our relationship when you leave office, because I can track you down. But I do, again, appreciate so much all that you've done. So give him a big, warm welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Felder. Wow, this is a beautiful backdrop. This is better than a lot of the TV studios I've been in. So you've done a wonderful job. I don't know, I feel like I'm the Dr. Phil of agriculture this morning, right? It's a beautiful setting. Good morning. It's good to see everyone this morning. I want to thank Dr. Felder. What a blessing. She's been to Harford County, and she came at a tough time right in the middle of the pandemic, so our initial meetings were always on Zoom, but she has done a fantastic job. I also want to thank Dr. Stowers for her work with Harford Community College and for overseeing Harford's Master Gardener program, along with Joyce Browning, who does a fantastic job. So this year's theme is on bringing agriculture to farmers and communities, and we're so proud of the work they do here. Agriculture's been a big part of my administration. You know, for many years, although I say I'm a recovering sheep farmer, I still have sheep over at my dad's place. I've gotten smarter and got him doing a lot of the work while I'm running around the state, and a few of my generation of sheep are still at the North Harford MAG program, so I get a note every once in a while from the students when they get a new lamb. And as many of you know, in 2018 we opened our agricultural hub and street, and it's been amazing. It's probably one of the dream things I wanted to do and get accomplished as county executive. We've been able to do that with our agricultural division, Master Gardener program, the Farm Bureau, soil conservation, the Extension Service for our 4-H'ers, and the Department of Forest and Pest Management. And so we can't be more pleased that we have all those partners there. And as you've seen, we've got some activity there. This summer, we're finishing up a second phase of the master plan, and we have a new playground for the children in the Dublin Street area and visitors. You'll see it's got one of our buy local signs on it, a silo for the children to play. And then there's a half-mile and a mile loop for folks who want to get some exercise after they eat some Harford County grown products there. And so we're excited about that second phase. And also on the corner, the Darlington Dublin Library is under construction. We're renovating an old bank there. That'll be tied into the trail system. Also an agriculturally themed park and library to tie that all in, also with a trail down to Chesapeake Therapeutic Riding. So we're really proud of the way that project's come together. It's unique in the state of Maryland. And the center point is the Grove, which I'll give a plug, is opening on April 2nd. And so we invite you there and to come out during the summer and support our vendors on that location also. And so we've got a lot invested in agriculture in Harford County, everything from gardening to crop farming, and that's been an important part of our work. We're getting close to 65,000 acres preserved. I know during my term we've spent close to $37 million in land preservation to make sure that we preserve those open spaces and keep them in agriculture in Harford County. And so thank you all for coming out today. Enjoy your time and your learning experience. We'll hope for some warmer weather so everything grows and we get out of this frost cycle. The next young man I want to introduce worked for me when he was probably about this tall. I've known him since he was a kid in Level. We're both from Level Village and started out in the fire company and farming in the Level community. He does a great job in my agricultural division, connecting with all of Harford County's farmers and our agencies. And also, he followed me in the state senate, and he's our state senator and carries on a tradition of service as the only full-time farmer in the Maryland State Senate. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Senator Jason Galion.
Thank Thank you. Let's all wish the county executive 2 days ago a very happy 60th birthday. He doesn't look 60, but a lifetime of service to the community, starting in the same fire company that I still am in level, and we appreciate all he's done. I'm kind of here in a dual role today, as mentioned. I'm the state senator representing this district, and also the agricultural specialist for Harford County government. The county executive did a wonderful job talking about all the different projects and things going on up there at Dublin at that site. And we're so excited about moving forward and having all these great opportunities for people to come learn about agriculture, whether it be at the library coming up or at the Ag Center there. But with that, the Ag Center started 4 years ago, and it was an opportunity to bring kind of all these different agencies under one roof so that the community and the farmers could come to have one-stop shopping for their needs when it comes to agriculture and learning about plants and these different issues. So my main job this morning is to talk about just one aspect of that, and that is the Master Gardeners program. Joyce Browning, I can tell you, I get a lot of calls with my job with the county. Well, how do I grow this or how do I grow that? I refer them to Joyce because she is the expert, and they just do a wonderful job. And we have folks from all over the county that are interested. It doesn't matter if they have a tiny little spot at home or a farm. They want to know how to grow stuff better. So I have just a few fun facts about the Master Gardeners, and I don't want to mess it up, so I'll pull out my cheat sheet. There are 137 Master Gardeners right now in Harford County. They've been going for 25 years, and their mission is to educate citizens about sustainable gardening practices. Let me tell you, they are doing a fantastic job. How many Master Gardeners we have in here? Just give a little wave. All right, right. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. So we appreciate you. Once again, thank you. President Felder has been wonderful to work with. I'm actually a graduate of Harford Community College, political science major way back in the day, so it's always great to come back here, and I appreciate the partnerships that we've built. So with that, Sharon, if you wouldn't mind coming out, I think we have a little presentation to make.
So could we have Alice Archer come to the stage? You see her? Alice, are you there? Oh, this is a surprise. If we told her about it, she probably wouldn't have come today. So, yeah. Alice, we want to give you this award, Jason and I, for being your outstanding service to the Farmers and Community Partnership of Harford County and all our agricultural people. Alice is involved with everything agriculture here. She also works at the Farm Bureau, and she has been fabulous in helping to make these wonderful symposiums happen. So give her a big round of applause.
One thing about Alice, when we all came together, these different organizations in January of 2018, you had Extension, Soil Conservation, Farm Bureau, my office. We all came together under one roof, and even though we're technically different agencies, everybody came together and really started pooling our thoughts, our resources, and found the best ways to really promote agriculture and work well together. And I can tell you an old baseball analogy. You remember, any baseball fans? Now, obviously, I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm an Oriole fan. But you remember back in the 70s when they called Reggie Jackson the straw that stirs a drink because he brought the Yankees together and he was the one that made it happen. That's the straw that stirs the drink at the Ag Center. She's great at coordinating people together, and she's outstanding at feeding us. So we just cannot thank you enough for being our straw and being that one that really helps pull everybody together. And it's just, you're working there with different folks from different agencies. It's like a little family there. It's just a wonderful group. It's a pleasure to go there every day, and you're a big reason why. Thank you.
You can take this in. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Well, we are going to have some kind of show today, and it's going to be great. And I am so happy to introduce you our star performers Joyce Browning, our horticulturist for the Harford County Extension Service, and Andy Ness, who's also from Harford County Extension Service. He's our agriculturalist extraordinaire. And Joyce is our YouTube personality. Let's give it up.
So, all right, welcome. This is the Anyone Can Garden Symposium, and we say big thanks to Harford Community College and Dr. Stowers, because she's the one that's really established the Farmers and Community Partnership. This is their 4th annual event. Usually they reach out getting homeowners to understand what the farmers do, and that's why Andy serves on the board, and a couple of our speakers today also serve on their board, and I'm just the guest to come along with them today. So welcome. Our objective is like threefold. Maybe some of you don't garden very much and you want to get involved, so we've got ideas for you how to garden. And then number 2, we have an outreach to people that maybe have a patio and not much yard, or maybe a deck, and they want to do some containers. We got ideas for you. And then the third group is going to be those that have a yard. I got some ideas for you because we got this pretty amazing hydroponic idea at the very end. So stick with us. We have an hour and 15 minutes, I guess, of time to run through this program. But to start, I want you guys to answer some gardening questions. So, Andrew, where do we begin this? We're going to pull up the horticulture connection questions for the audience. Jeff, you're going to key those up. So the game here is, I should have ushers out there somewhere, and they should have their little garden trugs. And we're going to ask you some hort connection questions. Maybe, are you ready? I think I might just wing them myself. You know, we should practice and make sure that some of you are awake. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, let's just
practice
throw
a few.
them out there.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
You think they're going to be okay?
I'm sure.
All right.
They're soft.
Yeah, they're soft. They won't matter.
If you get injured, it's not our liability.
Yep. All right, let's make sure you're awake. Awake? Hey, what are you laughing at? Hey. Okay, we got the audience awake. So, question number 1, we're going to pull this up. Andy and I, our job at the Extension office is to answer gardening questions. So I serve the homeowner and answer the home gardening questions, and that's what Jason is funneling to me. And then when they're more agriculturally based, or maybe they're pasture questions about animals, they get fired over to Andy. So Andy, I've been there, I don't know, read the program, it tells you how long I've been there. And it tells you my bio, so you can pick it up there. So, but that's our job. And so Extension is a service. You know, back in the old days, the universities did all kinds of research, and they were like, how do we reach the farmer? How do we
do
reach?
research, Joyce. And we still do research.
Thank you, Andy. We still do research. And so research, and it was how to get it to the farmer. So the colleges had to extend the information out to the counties to reach the farmer. That's where the word extension comes from. Some of them are called cooperative extensions. Some are just called extension services. So we just kind of refer to just extension nowadays. And so that's what we do, is answer questions. I'm totally paid. Thank you, Mr. Glassman. I'm totally subsidized by the county funds. Whereas Andy, where's your money come from?
The state of Maryland.
So because Extension is funded by federal money and state money. So the money comes from all different
And
directions.
county money.
And county, and then I'm fully county. So money's coming from everywhere, and we're here to serve you. That's what we do. So we get lots of questions. So your first quiz question, if you think you know the answer, you have to wave your hand, as my sign says. I can kind of make out where you are if you think you know the answer. And we've got some prizes. So remember, ushers, don't throw them overhand and the people in the audience with the underhand toss. And so the first question is going to be on garden pests. Are you ready? Garden pests is a category. The question is,
Why don't you read it?
what was the #1 insect question that came into our office last year? #1 question. All right, I got a waving hand over here. What? The spotted lanternfly. So answer is, she's correct. So this side of the audience, throw them some prizes. Toss them. Make sure the one that answered the question gets one. Spotted lanternfly coming to a neighborhood near you. Woo! What do you have to say about that spotted lanternfly, Andy?
It's quite a pest. It's a nuisance for sure. And they're very hard to squish. They hop.
Yeah, they escape. They're getaway artists.
They are.
So they're easy to kill, though. You can just use simple products. Read the labels before you. But everybody's going to get them, and you're going to be calling and asking, what do I know about my spotted lantern
You
flies?
can spray them with soapy water and it will kill them.
Soapy water. They die easy. But everybody's going to get them in your yard. And you know what the worst part's going to be? It's not going to be the bug itself. It's when he's going to the bathroom, and then there's going to be sweet sugar stuff all over your deck, all over your pool, all over your patio furniture, on dripping on you. And you're going to be like, what do I do with this black stuff growing everywhere? Because you get this black mold afterwards. So it's going to be miserable for a few years. Is there hope in the future?
I think so. I think eventually our native predators will figure out that they can eat them, just like brown marmorated stink bug. It took about 5 or 6 years until the native predators figured out that they could eat them. So I think eventually our native species will start to eat them. But until then, their populations are probably going to explode.
And you're not going to have trees dying because of spotted lanternfly. They're not going to kill your plants. They're just going to suck. They're going to suck a lot of juice out. It's not. It kills things like hops and what's the other?
Grapes.
Grapes.
If you have
are the other
grapes,
thing.
look out.
Grapes and hops. Yep, those. But other plants can sustain them sucking and feeding on them. So they're not going to kill your plants.
Yeah, beer and wine. God forbid.
Okay, let's go to our next category. What's our next category? This is the garden pest mystery. So go ahead, put the next one up. Who can identify this? Wave your hand at me. What is this caterpillar and what do you do about it? Who knows the answer? Oh, that's the same section. I was in that section. Is there anybody over here that knows the answer? I see it all the way in the back. I see a hand. Quiet. What is it? Tomato hornworm. And what are those little white things on his back? Very
Wow.
good.
Nailed it.
Parasitoid wasps.
Nailed it.
So if there's parasites living on him, you know what they're doing? They're eating him from the inside out like an alien. And so, if the caterpillar's eating your tomato, what's the better thing to do? Kill the guy because he's eating your tomato? Or let 35 or 40 parasites that are eating him hatch and fly out and kill other ones later? So what are you supposed to do about the caterpillar? Yell it. Nothing. Put her up there. Nothing. Do nothing. So when you see the white little things on the back, just let him suffer slowly. Okay, next question category. Gardening basic question here. And this one, master gardeners that are in the audience, you can't answer this because this is the one question that we drill into every person that calls, every person that comes to see Andy and I. The hard ones, the lawn questions, can be excruciating. Andy and I was like, Andy, help me, we got a hard lawn question here. It's the one thing that we tell everybody to do. So the question reads, what should you do before you do any kind of gardening thing? What do? We did that one. We did that. Who should we go to? Here in the center with the glasses. Test the soil. Ding, ding, ding. Number one. So that's going to take us to a video on how this is done because I think a lot of people are intimidated by doing lawn tests. I'll just give you a little reminder. When you leave here today, you're going to get a milk jug that you take home with you, and inside of it is a coupon for $5 off getting a soil test done at the mill. So that's a discount. But also at the Master Gardener table, which you can visit during the break time, they have information on private labs that you can send it off to, which traditionally are cheaper than using a local place, but with their $5 coupon, boom, put you right in the running. So let's watch the video and you see how easy it is to do a soil test. Hey gardeners, did you know that one of the most important management practices in any landscape is to do a soil test? And if you're intimidated by doing a soil test, I want you to know it's cheapest and fastest to just do this on your own. So we have with us today Agent Andy Ness from the University of Maryland Extension Office, Harford County. And Andy, you're going to teach us what do we need to do a soil test, and we're going to look at exactly how to do this because you can do this.
All right, Joyce. So gardeners, the very first thing you're going to want to do is how do you go from what's in your lawn or in your flower bed to what's in this bag? So it's not as complicated as you might think. The first thing that you want to do is to define areas of your landscape that you want to sample from. So for example, behind us here, we have a flower bed. That could be one area that you want to sample. A flower bed should be sampled at at a depth of 8 inches. Now, in front of us, we have the front yard. This would be a separate management area.
And we're going to do that with you in a minute.
This would be
We're going to do this together.
This would be a separate sample. And for a lawn situation, turf, you would sample that at a depth of 4 inches. Say you also had a vegetable garden. That would be a separate sample as well, and you would sample that at a depth of 8 inches as well. So now you know what what areas you're going to sample in your yard. Now what tools do you need? So it's really not that complicated. So we have an array of different methods of getting the soil out of the ground and into a bucket to ship to the lab. So first thing you're going to need is a clean plastic bucket, preferably plastic, because if it's metal, it could potentially throw off your soil sample analysis with the corrosive metals and such. The second thing you're going to need is a way to get soil out of the ground and into that bucket. So some of these things you probably already have at your house, some you might not. So everybody probably has a shovel. So this is just your typical garden spade. You could potentially use this to take thin slices at a depth of 4 inches for your lawn or 8 inches for flower beds. Preferably, the most preferred method that is easiest would be to use a soil probe. You can buy these online or at a home and garden center. They're not terribly expensive, but this makes it really easy to just put in the ground, push it down to that depth of either 4 or 8 inches, pull the core out of the ground, put it in your bucket. So now that we have the tools of the trade, the next thing that you're going to do is actually take your samples. You want to take random samples throughout your sample area. So for example, your front yard might be one of your sample areas.
All right, why don't we hold on a second? Let's go out here and show them.
Sure.
Okay, here we are out in the yard, and Andrew already told us that you should have a soil probe or a shovel, but I think a lot of homeowners are thinking of their bulb digger. Can they use a bulb digger, Andy? What do you think?
So, in my opinion, the bulb digger is probably not the best tool for the job. Here you can see a core that was taken with the bulb digger, and these are inch increments. And for a lawn situation, we want to take a sample at 4 inches, and you can see this one's coming up at about 3 inches at best or so, 3.5. So this isn't really getting us deep enough, and this certainly would not get you deep enough in a flower bed or a vegetable garden. So that's probably not your ideal tool. The ideal tool would be a soil probe, and you can see Joyce just put the probe in the ground and she's taking a core out. And here it is. Very easy, wasn't it, Joyce?
Oh, very simple. So I know I need 4 inches, and I happen to have this blade with me. So I've got my 4-inch sample, and I'm going to knock this excess out because I don't want it to fall in the bucket, because we know those lower subsoils are not going to be as nutritious. So I knock them out, and then I'm just going to invert it into my bucket. Boy, that's easy.
So there's one core done.
But the reality is, Andy, most gardeners don't have those. So this is what I do in my yard. I like it when my soil's a little bit moist. I drive my shovel in, I slide it in about 1 inch behind, and I try to pull out my slice. Oh, how nice this would work so perfectly. So here's my sliver that I made, and then I just cut my core, and I take my center, and I'm gonna put this in. Now, do I need all this grass and thatch? No. I'm going to pull those pieces off, but I don't want to pull I want to knock the soil off the roots. And so I'm going to put that right into my bucket. So there's the beginning, and I put it in my bucket, and we've got about, how many sites did we mark? Probably 15 in this front yard that we're going to show you again. When we put it in the bucket, we're going to show you what you do with it next, because it's a little bit cheaper to ship dry soil than wet soil. So let's give them a tip in a minute.
Okay, so here we are. Within this bucket is our soil cores and our soil samples that we took from 15 random sites across this entire front yard. It's very important that you take enough samples to put in this bucket, because if you don't take enough, you're not going to get accurate data back from the soil test lab. So we recommend at least 15 samples in your sampling area.
I got a question. Are they testing random spots that are unusual, like puddles and stuff, and unusual locations, or is this just the?
So good question. So you want to avoid areas of your yard that are not representative of sort of the average. So for example, don't take a sample that's right underneath of a tree in the shade, or don't take a sample that's right in the middle of a spot that always lays wet. And don't take a sample right where your dog always urinates.
Oh, good points. Avoid those areas where the pets visit regularly. So here we are with all of our core samples. This is what I do. I take them home and dump them on newspaper during the night. I spread it out and I do a nice mix. You have to break up all these clods. Of course, the guy testing does not want sticks, and they don't want any sticks and any kind of rocks that you find. So you're getting rid of those. You're picking out the roots. We're breaking up these clods really small, and I spread it out during the evening hours. And actually, for the next few hours in my house, I'm actually breaking up these clods. Now, in this box is a sample I took last night or yesterday afternoon from my vegetable garden. And as you can see, I've tried to really grind it down so I've got a nice composite mix of all my core. And then, Andy, how much are we sending in that little bag?
So in your bag that you're going to send to the soil test lab, you're going to have about a cup of soil, which is what Joyce has represented here. And the one benefit of drying your soil on newspaper is that you're not actually paying to send water. So it's cheaper to mail that way.
You're cheaper. And how much is the lab really going to use of this to do the test? Because this is the real kicker. You wouldn't believe how little soil they use.
So the soil test lab is basically going to mix your sample once they get it, and they're going to take a couple of grams worth of soil to run your test. So this sample right here from your sample is going to give you information to manage, say, this entire half-acre front yard that we just sampled, which is why it is so very important to do this process correctly and to mix your soil thoroughly in order to get a good data back from the lab.
So good. So they don't use much. And then this is what your lab sheet's going to look like. You're going to fill out a lab sheet, and I put my name and address. They're going to ask you to name your plot. I would suggest that you pick a name for the area that really depicts what it is, because if you're testing a pasture and you're testing a vegetable garden and you're testing a lawn, in the 2 years from now, when you go back to consult this, it's important that you know what particular bed you were really testing. And then they're going to ask you, how deep did you take your test? How fresh it is. You can actually, Andy told me you can hold your test for, a couple weeks. It doesn't matter. You can take some time before you send it.
Just don't rehydrate the soil.
Oh, that's...
Also, do not microwave or oven dry your
Good
soil.
points. Don't add water or anything special to the mix. And then you choose, now Andy, you're going to have to answer this question. You tell them what kind of crop you're growing. My test is going to be a vegetable that I'm going to mail off. So Andy, tell them why it's important to tell the lab this, because do they even test for nitrogen?
They don't test for nitrogen because nitrogen it changes so many different forms in the soil. However, our nutrient recommendations, especially nitrogen, are dependent on what you're growing. So vegetable garden will have a different nutrient recommendation, and especially nitrogen, than say a grass warm season or cool season grass lawn would.
And you can see the lab sheet lists on here all the different types of garden. So you have to tell them which one. And then Andy, tell them why it asks on here how frequently or when your most recent Lyme test was. So how many months? You have to wait a long time after you've limed, don't you?
Yeah, so they're going to want to know when the last time you limed was. And the reason being is that Lyme takes a while to react. So they need to factor that into their calculation that they give you from back from the lab, so that you don't end up over liming your lawn or your garden.
So I think we've covered the gist of it. And guess what? You don't have to memorize all this because it's on the University of Maryland website. So just go. Go extension.umd.edu, go to the menu and look up soil testing, and you're going to spend anywhere from $10 to $20 to do this. It's faster for you to do this soil test yourself. And definitely put your email address, because I find they email the answers really quick. So it may look like Greek when you get it and you don't know how to read it. Call your extension office or go to our State of Maryland Extension Ask a Master Gardener sites. You can find the answers there. So there you go, gardeners. Here's my sample. I got it in my envelope. It's actually been sitting since we did this video. So important first step of anybody who owns a yard, even if you just are a person that mows your lawn, and that's all you do. And you still need to know what your soil is. I'll never forget somebody teaching at the university said, you know, if your pH level is not right in your lawn, no matter how many nutrients are out there, the plants can't get to them. It's just like going into your kitchen, the refrigerator door's chained closed, all the cabinets are chained closed. Is there food in there? There's plenty of food in there, but you can't get to it. And that's what happens when your pH is incorrect in your lawn. The plants can't get to it. So that's why pH and liming is the most important thing. And then any other good points they need to know, Andy?
I would recommend that you send your sample to a lab rather than to order like a home test kit online. There are some available, but you have to know what you're looking for. So it's just better to send it to a lab. We have a list of recommended labs that do the correct type of test for our soils. There are different types of soil tests. Not all of them work for our type of soil, so that you need to send it to the right lab. So you guys have a sheet in the Master Gardener booth that lists labs that you can send your samples to.
Okay, that's our important gardening plug to everybody. Pass the word. Do a test every 3 years. Lawn, garden, whatever. Okay, so now let's go to indoor gardening, how I can spark all of you to do some growing that maybe you haven't done before, or maybe give some Christmas gifts like this to a member in your family to inspire them to grow. So come on out. Our next speakers are going to be Barry Klein from Healthy Harford, and we've got Greg Merle from North Harford. He's a program specialist there. And so they're going to teach us about an indoor method. I've been doing this because a master gardener taught me to grow these little microgreens. And if you don't know what a microgreen is, it's not the same as a bean sprout. Sprouts, you're eating the roots. This is a plant that's just a little young seedling that's started up out of the ground, and you're cutting it off and eating it as a young sprout. So they're called microgreens, mini greens. And we're going to talk about what kinds of plants there are. So, Greg, Andy, go ahead. What are we going from here?
Well, here's Greg Merle. He works for North Harford High School and at their agriculture magnet program. And you guys are growing microgreens, so tell us why.
We are. So the great thing about microgreens is they grow quickly. And so we can go from germination to marketability and understand that process for plants very quickly in about a 2-week process. So in the in-between time, we can be evaluating the different brands that we have here, the different species. We have arugula, we have broccoli, we have a spring lettuce mix, there's some radishes mixed in. So there's all kinds of diversity that we can do and students can look at. But we can look at then, what are the temperature requirements? How do they do under certain temperatures? Or how do they do with a certain amount of water or certain amount of light? All those components that are necessary to grow anything, but we can study these in a really short time. And so therefore we can take them from that germination process. Some germinate in 1 to 2 days, others take 3 to 4 days, and we can watch that process and they can learn about how plants grow differently.
So that is one of the joys.
It is.
Quick.
So quick.
Quick. You want to do something good with the grandkids? Put these in a little pot. He does his hydroponically. We're going to talk about it. I just do mine in soil. 3 days they're out of the ground. In 2 weeks, you've eaten it and thrown the thing away. Just fast turnover. So, but it's worth it. And so why is it worth it? So we got a nutritionist here, girl, that's going to tell you, why do these babies pack a punch?
Okay, so you know how everybody's obsessed with vitamins? These are your vitamins. So a lot of times vitamins aren't necessarily bioavailable to your body, which means you're not getting the full punch. These little babies, these are packed with antioxidants, packed with vitamins. Some studies have shown, and mind you, that a lot of these studies are new, that there's 40 times more nutrients in the microgreens than there are in the regular full plants. So if you really want to get your bang for the buck, these are great. The other thing is if you do not like vegetables, you do not have to eat as many of them because you can just get them here. So great way to economize.
I think the other thing I was thinking about as we were talking about this before, Barry, was the other thing is some people don't like the texture of the full-grown vegetables. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so if you like this texture, you can get the same benefits from those vegetables in a texture that you prefer.
That's a great point, definitely. And honestly, You can just eat a handful of these really quick, you don't even know.
That's right.
But they do taste delicious, so not to disparage them at all. If you do like vegetables, these taste amazing.
Absolutely.
And so ask the important question, what are they?
Right. So Greg, what types of plants can you grow as microgreens?
So that's the really neat thing about microgreens. I think this is a fun thing for people that like to learn about gardening, and maybe you've done gardening for a long time. Microgreens are really neat because you can look at them they are classified by what's easy to grow, what's medium to grow, what's hard to grow, because there are some that are hard to grow. So that's a challenge for our advanced gardeners. They also can be based on your palate. We have mild, we have spicy, we have ones that are sweet, and then also for your palate texture. The different shoots produce different types of things. So we can go from things like, I know radish is one of your favorite. I like broccoli. We have arugula up here. We've done amaranth. We can do kale. We can do lentils. We can do sunflowers, all kinds of different things. And if you go to any website, they'll give you, here are the top 20 microgreens that are grown. They will classify them by taste. They'll classify them by texture. They'll classify them by ease to grow. So it really is a fun project. You talked about doing it with the grandkids, but even for veteran growers, microgreens present a really neat challenge. The other thing is soil types or media types. So this is grown in a soil and works very well. The difference is you're going to lose some of the microgreen because you're going to have to cut it a little higher so you don't have the soil taste because as the plant raises up, it does bring some of the soil up with it. At North Harford, we use coconut fiber. It's a little bit more expensive. The nice thing about this is it really controls the amount of moisture. Some people have asked, can you reuse it? The one nice thing is this will pull out relatively easily, and you can see how you get the full root, full plant, and it doesn't leave the residue behind. And so it could be rinsed and sterilized and used again if needed. That's a little bit more time-consuming and process. You need to just make sure that you do sterilize it because it does hold moisture, and so you can get molds and things like that. And remember, as we go through this process and we are sterilizing things, that doesn't always reach the coconut fiber once the plant has started to emerge. So again, it really is pretty easy to do. It looks fantastic.
So these some of them are red, the radishes.
Right.
They're all red. I wish you could see them. We don't have enough to share with all of you. So what about the red pieces? Tell us about that.
So these are filled with all kinds of nutrients that help with inflammation, cancer prevention, all different kinds of antioxidants that eat your free radicals. And for people that are not familiar with the term free radicals, basically those are the pieces left over from cellular division that cause all kinds of inflammation and bad things in your body. But we've all heard the term flavonoids, right, with our wine and our grapes and stuff. A lot of these, especially the beets, have the flavonoids as well. So you'll see that interspersed with some of these red stems. So the breadth of the amount of vitamins and minerals that come from these is just astounding.
So do you understand that if these are embryonic leaves? You're eating these are preformed leaves that are inside the seed, like when you're eating a peanut or any kind of nut. Those are preformed embryos that were put in there by the parent plant. And then when you're consuming it, you're eating, that's what makes them more powerful, even than eating my kale or my lettuce or my
Well, you
spinach.
are eating your kale and your lettuce. You're
This
just
is
eating them
4 to
small.
40 times more nutritious than eating your kale or your fig leaves, because they're embryonic.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's the
there's
idea.
also a lot of nutrients that are in those embryo leaves that are not found in the true leaves of the plant.
So
lot
we're
of
eating them
micronutrients.
before the true leaves. These are the embryonic leaves, we call them cotyledons. The second set of leaves are the true leaves. So you're eating them at this stage. And so Barry, how do they eat them?
Well, if you're Joyce, you just pull them out of here and you shove them. But they make excellent garnishes. If you are a texture person, you can throw them in the blender. You could use them as spices like herb spices when you're making any kind of frittata or quiche or something like that. If you're putting them on a burger, honestly, a lot of these have a tremendous amount of iron in them, and they'd be great vitamin C, great complements for your burgers. Any place that you would normally use greens, just throw these on top.
They're easy to sow. And let me give you one tip. When I sow them on my soil, I don't bury them at all. No. Just sling them across the top, because when the embryonic leaves do come up, they carry the soil with them. And like Greg said, you have to cut them a little bit higher, but this is an easy thing, and this is a good tip. I bet in the event of an emergency, what kind of things do you have stored in your house, in your kitchen? In your house, what are you doing? You got blankets, in case electricity goes off, you got water. Wouldn't it be nice to have some seeds of microgreens stored somewhere? So if you go in the grocery store and there's no greens, you can't buy anything because nobody's shipping anything because it's COVID, you could always be growing some microgreens at home. They're so easy. Most of them are cabbages, lettuce, brassicas, and they'll keep, how many years? Do you have any idea?
A while.
3 to 4 years. For the most part, those seeds really do hold over for
As
a long
long as you
period of
have
time.
them at a decent, they're not going through a lot of temperature fluctuations. They'll keep for a while.
So did some of you in the audience, we were tossing some gifts, did some people get these? Some of you should have gotten, show them to your neighbors. I found microgreens. Look, here's a pack in here that somebody got.
No, that would be a
Look
great
at
question.
them all. I got these at Dollar General.
And we should probably try
I
to
was
get
over there, I was
the
like,
light.
oh, check it out,
The
the Dollar
light. You
General
need
selling
more light.
microgreens. So look over on the back and see what kind they are. But you have to start growing microgreens just for your good health and then to train other people. Anybody can do this. If you don't have a green thumb, anybody can do this.
So as our master gardeners were going around and showing you some things, I know there were some questions. One, where can we get coconut fiber? Ours comes from Amazon. It can come in individual squares. It can come in long rolls. The longer rolls tend to be a little bit cheaper. But you can have substitutes. Burlap is sometimes used, a tighter fiber. Anything that's a woven fiber will work. The biggest thing is the water retention of that fiber. So you want to avoid your cottons because they'll mold up quickly and things like that. But there are substitutes for this, very easy attainable from, I think you even said you saw it at Home Depot, they were selling it.
I saw it advertised at Home Depot.
So I think that's a little more expensive than what we buy.
Or they can stay after class, and we have burlap that's going to come off these pots. We'll give you some cut pieces.
There you go.
A burlap is a lot cheaper.
And the last thing is, this was planted last Thursday. So you can see how quickly this grew. This was actually ready on Wednesday, and I was just hoping it lasted well, and you can see it lasts well. It does need light, so that's one thing to note. You're going to not oversaturate it with water. It does need light. We use red-blue LED lights. They're very inexpensive. You can buy small little grow lights. If you want to do a small thing like this, you can buy a little stand grow light that's LED grow light that you can put right on your counter. And they're very inexpensive from Amazon or a craft store sometimes has them as well.
Yeah, you don't need an expensive light.
Do not need an expensive grow light. Joyce, I think we have questions.
Okay, well, I don't think we're going to take questions now.
Okay,
At the end
I
of the
wasn't
day,
sure.
we have questions and answers. But I throw them onto my kitchen table. I just get the morning sun in there, and it does fine.
And questions at the break. I know, Barry, you're going to be at your
Table.
Yep,
at
we'll be
table.
there.
I'll be at the North Harford table in the back so we can
So
answer
thanks.
microgreen
And Barry's
questions.
going to be back and do a garden salad with us in a couple minutes. So super. All right, thanks for coming out and doing that with us. So now also, we got another tip for you for indoor gardening that's pretty easy over here. And this system, my little brother who's out here, he said, hey, Joy, check this out, man. This is easy growing. And so he goes, I got tomatoes coming. I'm like, I don't believe for 1 minute that you got tomatoes growing in your house that taste good. No. He goes, yeah, you bet. I read all the directions. I'll do what it says. And I said, all right, yeah. And then he brought me a baggie of tomatoes, and I was like, oh, my golly. What? Show me more. And then come to find out, then I met Kathy Toller, our master gardener, and she's been doing this for how many years?
Going on 20.
Yeah, she's done this a lot of years. So why do you grow? These are hydroponic systems. That was hydroponics in the sprouts, or in the microgreens. At least Greg was. I don't do it hydroponically. This is another form of a hydroponic system. So tell us, why do you do this?
Well, I started with these cascading petunias because I love having fresh flowers blooming in my house year-round, and my husband got really tired of me spending that money at the grocery store to buy the cut flowers, and so he said, buy one of these, and then it keeps going. I've had these rolling. This particular plant's only about 2 months old, but I've kept the cascading petunias blooming for over a year at a time before they had to be repotted.
Pretty cool.
From then on, I moved on to leafy greens and herbs. They're wonderful for herbs. I keep one in my kitchen with various herbs in it. Clip them, chop them, throw them in the pot. They're fresh as can be. You don't have to worry about washing them and drying them and all that other stuff.
So, kale, parsley, this is my little brother's unit. Thank you, Tom. I got petunias coming in this. She's the one who got me fired up about growing more flowers, but we've done herbs in them before, and the herbs at the office, it's like aromatherapy. You know, you get all tense. Those turf questions come in the office, you just go in and rub the thyme and the rosemary, like, oh. So that's one of the joys of having it in your office. And these are small enough units, you can put them, Caroline keeps hers right on her desk there. It's been fun. And then at home, I had this one at home. I was eating, my husband had bought some tuna fish, and I was like, man, this thing needs some greens on it. And I looked over to my left, and my unit was, I just ripped it off and put them on my tuna. You know, that's the nice part. You don't get any bugs. It's indoor, you know, no weeds, no bugs. It's easy to do, and then you just throw it on your sandwich. It's great. So we got parsley, we got tomatoes. Now,
Tomatoes here.
Andy, aren't you going to ask her a question? I think you got a
I
question.
will,
for
yeah.
her.
So, I mean, plants are pretty cool. I mean, they'll grow in almost any type of medium, except air. They have to have something for the roots to be in. But how do plants perform differently in a hydroponic system like this versus something else?
Well, you have complete control over your light, your temperature, and your nutrients. So they're going to grow faster than what they would outside in the garden. This is about a little over 2 months old. It's just starting to flower. These are tomato plants. I've got 7 tomato plants in here. These will grow a little bit taller, maybe another 8 inches or so when they're fully grown. But they won't get much taller than that. And part of that's due to the cultivar, and another part is just due to the fact that the container is a finite size, and so the roots aren't going to keep spreading and spreading and spreading, so they're going to top out at a certain amount. But that's okay.
But don't they also, I mean, that's a characteristic of a plant, that if it doesn't have to fight to go find water,
Right.
it's going to automatically.
Yeah, so it's perfectly fine and healthy in that system.
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
They're going to stay
yeah.
more compact,
Right.
just because they don't have to battle for water and deal with winds and breezes. So you automatically, hydroponic plants are always going to be a little smaller.
And the lighting system on that unit helps keep the plant compact too.
I wish I could tip it upside down for you. We're going to show you one of these, but you don't. The lights are different too. The lights are different colors inside. Kath, what color are they?
They're red, blue, and white, and that's to mimic the different frequencies from natural sunlight. They think that the red, the blue, and the white are the most important for growth. There are others in there that are important too, but not as much as this one.
Yeah, so plants, they absorb red light and they reflect green light. That's why they look green to us. So having red lights in a growth light like this really promotes compact and prolific growth.
So, and the cool part is you get these edibles on here. That's the joy of a lot of when you buy these, they're foolproof. So you buy this for, anybody, kids, adults, and they have a dial on the front that's foolproof. You just program it and say lettuce, and it'll say blink, 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 joy, water. It's getting low on water. Blink, blink, blink. Today's the day to water. It tells you. When you buy the unit, it comes with fertilizer. It comes with all the directions. And the thing just tells you. You don't even have to be a gardener to be able to do this one. It just blink, blink, blink. Hey, yo, dude, water me. So I don't always obey what it tells me. So I'm not one that follows guidelines perfectly well. But I am successful with these. The one shortcoming I find with it is the salt accumulation I don't like. And we use some of the filtered water at the office, and you're not supposed to use filtered water. What are they? We're supposed to be distilled?
Distilled water,
Is that what it
yes.
is? Is that what
Distilled
you
water
use?
is best. I use my municipal tap water.
Oh.
Most municipal tap water has most of the minerals removed. Not well water, definitely not well water.
I use well water. That's why I got all that white stuff everywhere.
And not filtered spring water, because the reason filtered spring water tastes so good is because it has minerals in it, so you don't want to use that. But distilled, municipal, or a mixture of the two.
let me, what was I going to say? I forgot what I said. Anyway, and the last question. What kind of things have you learned? You've been doing this how many years on these?
Almost 20.
20 years she's been growing in these hydroponic systems. That's a long time. So what are some lessons that we've learned, you've learned?
Well, you want the bells and whistles on these, especially if you're a beginner. Like Joyce said, you've got the clock and the alarms to tell you when to add nutrients, when the water is low. You want to make sure that your lights are really high quality. I bought some lesser models than what you're seeing here, and the difference in the light quality is very apparent. You also want to make sure that this is what your deck looks like before you plant it. You put these little white cages in, and you put your growing medium in there, and you want those to fit real tight so that when the plants start to get big, they don't topple over. If those are loose, don't buy that unit because they'll get to be about 8 inches tall and then they'll start falling over. You can also get some, this one has a little trellis system.
I noticed that. I didn't know there was such thing as a trellis. I think you're hot stuff. I need one of them. I had to look into that.
Yeah, the trellis system is nice. Helps keep them upright. And I've grown all sorts of things in this big one. I've grown eggplants, I've grown poblano peppers, and I'm currently working on trying to figure out how to do snow peas.
Peas. I tried nasturtium. The cool thing is you can experiment with all kinds of seeds because one of the units came in and it had marigolds in it. I was like, no way. That marigold's not going to flower. And I'll be darned if the little rascal did. Flowered right in Caroline's office. It was amazing. I'm like, and then talk
And
about
a strawberry, too.
That's right. I brought strawberries from home and I stuck them in. Brought fungus gnats in the whole office, but it was fun.
And one other thing, real
quick. Yes, we had strawberries. Of course, everybody wanted to pinch them off there. Customers coming like, check it out. They got strawberries in there. We grew all kinds of things. And the herbs are twice as tender. Like things like thyme, they're kind of wiry. When you grow it in your garden, your house is kind of wiry and kind of firm stemmed. You grow it in this indoors, it's tender and just soft as can be. Totally different texture in your time.
One other thing you can do, you can get a different kind of deck to start seedlings. I can start 50 seedlings in this deck on this machine, and it goes from house to garden. There is no step where you have to put it into another plant pot. So if your space is tight, it's really good.
So cool. Anybody can do this. And it isn't cheap. They aren't cheap units. But it is worth the investment to get the higher quality ones because you're going to be able to program. Can you see the blue light on this one? It's blinking. It's saying, Joyce, I need water. So the blue light's blinking right there right now. And then the other lights will come on and tell you when to fertilize. And that fertilizers come with it. So really, self-sufficient little systems that are super fun. In our office, we don't have any windows, and it's just great having it in the office. And then, like I said, that aromatherapy, it's worth it when you're uptight. So wonderful indoor unit. Ask for one for Christmas. That's the thing to do. So good. Kath, thanks. Thanks for being a part of this. So, if you're looking for fresh vegetables and you're not growing things like this indoors, you really ought to seek out a local farm to buy from. You can go to Barry Klein, she has a website called Healthy Harford, and at her site you can find the Harford County Farm Finder. But Jeff, if you'll pull up the Harford County Farm Finder slide, should be in there. You can go to Harford County Government website and you go to their agriculture menu. And from there, if you scroll to the bottom, look down the bottom of the page, there's a little symbol that says Harford Farm Finder. And when you click that, it'll take you to all the county farm, correct me.
It takes you to the farms that are listed on the map, not all the farms. So these are farmers that have said that, yes, I would like to be on the map because I sell direct to the consumer. So they're the ones that are listed on this map.
And if you want to buy microgreens, like I was just at Tommy Shireman's Third Way Farm a couple weeks ago. He sells microgreens. They're quite expensive to buy. And yet you can grow them so cheap. But they are expensive to buy. He sells them and he grows them all year round. And he also grows all kinds of spinach, kale, and lettuce, even in the dead of winter. And, that was the hardest thing for this symposium. I was worried sick about how I was going to have plant material on a stage in March because it's not exactly an easy time to grow plants. So we're going to go into that. I guess we go into that video after break time. So where are we now, girls? We're at the Harford County Farm Finder. Am I going to my containers? So is that where I am? Oh, we are doing the video for
I was going to say,
Flowers by
you have
Bowers.
to do
I'm
the video
sorry.
first.
Yeah, we are. We're doing his video now. He's another hydroponic grower. You're not going to find him on Farm Finder because he doesn't sell direct. Well, yes, he does.
Well, they have a florist, so you can buy flowers. They are one of the largest snapdragon producers in the entire United States.
Yeah.
And they're right here in Harford County. And I know Matt's going to talk some interesting points about why it's so difficult to actually grow plants in the winter time. It's hard obviously to grow them outside, but it's still difficult to grow them inside as well because of light quality issues that we have in the winter time just because of the tilt of the Earth's axis and things like that.
All right, so let's go to that video. Jeff, pull that baby up. We were at Flowers by Bowers, and we'll see. And growing at this time, we actually did 2 videos. Go ahead and run it when you pull it up, Jeff. I'm here today at a really innovative greenhouse. They grow hydroponically. And who would know they're hidden off in the hills of the Whitehall area. They have a Flowers by Bowers business in downtown Jarrettsville, Maryland. But we're out here in the month of February because we've got to answer the question, why is it so hard to grow plants at this time of the year? So we're going to discuss that in a minute. I'm here with the son, Matt Bauer, his dad, and his dad is a twin. They started this business. They're all graduates of the University of Maryland. Woohoo! And not only that, they've been in the Harford County area their entire lives, 6th generation dairy farmers living here. They went to Harford Community College and even went to North Harford High School. So homegrown family that's worth your support. But anyway, they run a scientific operation here that's amazing because how many different universities have you worked with?
We have worked probably about 6 different universities.
So all kinds of research is done right here in this greenhouse that's dispersed and evaluated. So today we're here to answer this question. Why is it so hard to grow plants at this time of the year? So Matt, how do we answer that?
Okay, it's hard this time of year because we have low light levels.
Okay, and so how do we measure that daily interval of light? You know, we talk about it, we notice it, you know, some of us just get depressed when there's not as nice of lighting in the winter months. Well, the plants are experiencing similar, they're always measuring it as well. How do you measure your light here?
We measure our light in moles.
Moles? Matt, what's a mole? Is it the mole that's in my garden?
No, this is a mole. It measures light, and you gotta think of a piggy bank. So a piggy bank is thinking that each day you're counting moles, and you're adding a quarter each day. So, in this time of year, like we might only get 1 mole per day, but we need 6 moles a day to maintain the plant, and then we need 8 moles a day to produce flowers.
Okay, so you get that? The light's coming in a form of photons. This is a photosynthetic reading that they're taking. When we talk about light, there's 3 characteristics of light that are included in a mole. It's intensity, duration, and quality. All of those factors. And some of those factors you can alter by having artificial light. But what you do in your operation, it's all natural, right?
Yes, we are all natural.
So no lighting systems in here. So they just key in on the natural features of nature itself. And that's why they're monitoring and measuring what a mole is. So how many moles does he need a day? He needs how many to make maintenance and how much to
6.
grow?
I need 6 moles for maintenance, and then to actually bloom flowers, I need 8.
Just to give you a clue of how detailed this research is, the reading on moles yesterday, here's the number, 1 point, and then all of these digits were the moles yesterday, February 3rd in Whitehall area. So it was a rainy day, that's why there was only 1 mole. So therefore, what's going on in the greenhouse right now? Are you growing? What are you doing?
Yes, we are growing, but like I say, on a rainy day, the plants are just sitting here doing nothing. But if we get a sunny day, then all of a sudden they shoot up.
So what kind of watering takes place? And this is important for homeowners. How do we water when we know the moles, the light intensity and the duration and all those factors are really low? How does that affect your watering of your plants?
Okay, you have to water less. So think of me, I have snapdragon seedlings. These are just little baby flowers. And I might water them every 2 weeks, and that's it. as long as the molds are low. Of course, if we get a higher mold day, I'm going to water again, but I have to wait until it dries down.
So watering is always related to how much light is being given. So we've talked about that. What are some crops that you grow here, Matt?
We have snapdragons, we have stock.
And one of the big things that they did in their operation is for years they had snapdragons, and that was one of the major crops. And they would ship them from Delaware to DC. And the reason this plant is hard to grow, when you ship it, your dad was telling me.
Yes, when it lays down, it's called negative geotropic, and stock is like that too. So it's going to want to curl up. And if you look at this stock plant here, this stock plant came from South America, and it came in a box. So it was laying down. It came in, we cut it, we put it in water, and what did it do? It bent over.
It bent over after they put it in water. Because once those hormones have settled on one side of the plant, it's not going to trigger it to grow straight. It's just going to grow crooked. And you cannot change that. So when your plants are bent, we just celebrate that they're bent, right?
Yes. and the general public thinks that they're bent flowers because when they're coming from South America, they don't know.
Yeah.
But a locally grown stock or snap will be straight.
And that's where they built their whole market for snapdragons, is shipping straight stems. And so that really birthed their market. But now with Matt, he's diversifying his retail operation. And what's the new thing you're doing now, Matt?
Okay, the new thing we're doing now is we have a market on the farm. This is a self-service market. It's a 10 by 10 cooler. You can come in, you can pick out your flowers, and it's a self-checkout. And and of course, this time of year we have some imported flowers, but later this spring, summer, and fall, we're going to have a full of flowers that we grow.
So here we are in this fascinating market where they're growing plants only in little perlite. There's no soil in any of this. This is hydroponics grown in this white little, you've seen these before in the soil mediums. Everything here is grown in white perlite, and then they sell them in their market. Now, one point to make, though, at this time of the year, because there's not many moles in the greenhouse, what happens? You guys have decided to do...
We actually import a lot of our flowers from South America.
And how long do you import?
For the market, I would say probably about 2 to 3 months.
And by the time we get to March, mid-March, all of a sudden the moles increase. The quality of light, the intensity, everything changes. And what happens to your plants?
We have a lot of flowers.
Woo! Everything starts growing. So if you're struggling with growing plants at home, by the time you get to March, mid-March, whammo, the days totally change, and all the plants have a natural trigger that say, grow, grow, grow. Okay, there's your tips, gardener. Thanks. So it is hard to grow at this time of the year because there have been inadequate moles. And that is something that's totally out of our control. And that's why I've been so worried. I grow all these plants in these containers at the North Harford High School, and we so appreciate Erica at North Harford High School who gave us greenhouse space for that, and also Greg Morrell's FFA kids who we'll introduce a little bit later. But it's hard to grow at the wrong time of the year. That's why these indoor things are fun to do during the winter months when it's so hard to grow other plants. So right now we're going to transition to Barry Klein's coming up to do her demonstration. She's going to show you, we're talking a lot about growing greens, and maybe you don't like greens, but there's creative things you can do, make your own little salad dressing. So she's going to show us how to do that. Come on, Barry, get up, fired up here. So we're going to show you how to make a cool 2 types of salad dressings so they make the microgreens more palatable.
They're delicious even when you don't have salad dressing.
I agree.
That's our story. No, they really are good. So it's going to just take a few seconds to set this up. I'm going to do 2 salad dressings. I think I was a little ambitious picking 2, but we'll see how it goes, and maybe it'll work out okay. I just want to give a shout out for one of them. One of them is one I've been making for years. We used to have something called Healthy Hartford Day. And the Dine Kind, which is a local vegan support organization, used to do cooking demonstrations for us, and they made this wonderful citrus salad dressing, which was always a huge hit, and I personally love it. And so that's one of the ones I'm going to show you today. So there's two ladies here, Wendy and Denali from Dying Kind. So I just wanted to recognize them and say thank you for this salad dressing that I've been making forever. Okay, so the thing about the microgreens is they have a tremendous amount of nutrients. I actually jotted down a couple of the ones that we're going to find. So vitamin A, the B vitamins, C, K, E, there's calcium, iron, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, potassium, zinc, and folate. So that's what we were talking about when we were saying they were such a powerhouse. But a lot of people shun salad dressings thinking that they're just extra calories when they're making a salad. And the thing about them is that because there's calcium in some of them, and because there's fat in others, that these things actually enhance the ability of our body to absorb some of these nutrients. So I would say if you don't want to have a ton of calories added, you can adjust the amount of oils per se in some of these salad dressings, but I wouldn't forego them altogether because there really is value to having them. Okay, so I'm just going to separate these real quick into the two different salad dressings. Okay, so I'm just setting this up so you can see some of the things that are going in to the different ones. So I believe these are in your brochure, are
Yes,
they?
they all have them in there.
So you have the recipe, and as I'm setting this up, I'm realizing I forgot the garlic, so we'll just skip that piece. So the first one is the
So you don't breathe on your neighbor.
a citrus maple dressing, and I love this one because it's super, super simple, and it's something that I usually have little kids make. Because other than cutting the lemon in half or the lime in half, they can pretty much do everything. So I roll these a little bit just to get a little bit more juice out of them. So the first one is...
She washed her hands for COVID safety.
I sterilized them actually, so we're good. Yeah, I use the little hand sanitizers. So it calls for 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is approximately half a lemon. So, because we're not going to measure it because we don't have to. And then 1.5 tablespoons of lime. Now, people will say, well, I don't have lime or I don't have lemon. You can mix this up a little bit. You can use orange if you want. But I would definitely stress that to use 2 different kinds of citrus because that really matters.
We got extra lemons if you need them off the tree back here.
Okay, good to know, good to know.
We can make enough for all of you.
Okay, and then the other piece for sweetener is we have some maple syrup. So sometimes I refer to this as the 3-3-3 because you add these 1.5 tablespoons, it's 3 tablespoons. You do 3 tablespoons of the maple syrup, and it calls for 1/2 cup of olive oil, and that's the part where you can vary it. I definitely say you have to have the olive oil because here's the thing. When you have, the dietary fat helps with the absorption of vitamin K. So vitamin K is great for clotting. Everybody knows kale's a superfood. So when you're doing your microgreens with, this is weird, okay. When you're doing your microgreens, it's great to have this dietary availability enhanced by having this extra dietary fat. So I'm not going to do the full 1/2 cup, but you get the gist. So that's pretty much your salad dressing right there. You just put it in your jar. Put in a little bit of salt.
What kind of salt's that?
This is just the Himalayan salt. It doesn't have iodine in it, so it depends whether or not you want iodine. I don't, so I use that. I bought it at Marshall's. It's not hard to find. And then you just shake it up.
I can do that.
Yeah. Burn off some of that energy. Yeah. And that's your salad dressing. I mean, that's how fast it is. It'll stay in the fridge up to about 5 days. And if it separates, just shake it again. So no chemicals, no preservatives, nothing, just a delicious salad dressing. It might be a little sour because I undercut
sour.
Undercut the oil. It's okay?
It's good, yes.
Okay. So here's the thing. If it is a little bit too sour to you, just add the full amount of oil. You know, just kind of adjust that a little bit.
I could take it even more sour.
Okay, well then, there you go. So that's one. Very, very simple. So again, having that, that dietary fat helps with absorption of vitamin K. And then also, the other thing too is having all this vitamin C really helps with the availability of iron. So especially plant-based iron. So if you really want to up your iron count, make sure that you've got vitamin C in some of your salad dressings. And again, if you're going to couple this with, say, a meat source, that's even going to enhance it even further. Okay, so the other one basically is a dairy one. And again, dairy, when we look at the vitamin D, so the vitamin D helps with the absorption of the calcium that's in there. Whoops, there's plastic. We'll take that out. So it's just a cup of Greek yogurt. Some herbs. And there's so many herbs around here, we could probably do some diversity with some of our herbs. This is just parsley.
So while she's working, I'll give you a tip. When I buy these, I don't put them in my fridge. I take them home and cut the bottoms off and put them in a mug and just sit them in the kitchen window and just leave them there available to me. And they'll just sit there on my windowsill for a week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on how fresh they are. And they just keep nice, so it's like a little house plant.
Yeah, and that's what I had that in a cup earlier. It really does help enhance it. Add some lemon juice.
Capers, like what's a caper?
Oh,
Did she
so
already put them in there?
I did, yeah. So
Yeah,
they're just
capers.
little flower buds, salty, as my
Flower buds.
husband calls them, salt bombs.
Yeah,
He's not a
from
big fan.
Plants in the Mediterranean region.
Yeah.
They actually just pinch the little buds off of them. Kind of looks like if you know what a cotoneaster shrub is, that's sort of what they look like. Pretty little flowers, but not something that'll grow. Well, maybe we could grow them in our hydroponic system.
Can I steal some of your dill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not all that healthy, but sure. It's been in the greenhouse.
It's what?
It's been in the greenhouse.
Okay, just throw it in there.
All right.
All right.
I got some onions. I got garlic. You want
Oh,
garlic?
you have
Yeah, we got garlic. I forget which one's which. One of them's elephant, one's regular. Oh, come here. We'll have to wash this one, Barry. Never mind.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah, they haven't developed yet. Oh, that's a scout. That's just a little onion. Sure, we put them. Oh, it looks like Watergate salad.
yeah. And that's it.
Oh,
that's
that's
your
pretty.
dairy-based salad. It's called,
Can you see that? Oh,
I don't know, it's
oh,
called
man.
goddess dressing.
Open that lid. Let's show the audience.
Yeah, let's unplug it just since you're sticking your hands in there.
Yeah. Can you?
What's that red color in there?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. See the pretty green color?
Yeah.
It's pretty green. Wow,
So
that's pretty.
Yeah, and it could also be used as a dip. So again, just using that vitamin D to enhance that calcium absorption. So I guess the big takeaway here is that if you make your salad dressings, they're super quick, they're super easy, they'll stay up to 5 days, they'll enhance the nutrient value of whatever you're putting them on, and help get more out of what you're trying to get out of your food. That's it.
Sweet. Good, Barry. Thank you. So we're getting ready to go to break time. Let me just say one thing. The vendors will be out there during break time, so please visit them. And when you come back, we're going to be doing how to plant a bag of compost. So he's got a couple bags out there. I'm going to demonstrate just how to use one of these. You're going to get free seeds when you leave here. You've got basil in the package you got now, but you're also going to get a packet of free lettuce seeds in your milk jug when you leave. And I'm going to show you how to plant this. So
Yeah. So please come back. Go and buy from our vendors. And if that's made you hungry, the food is still out.
yeah,
So
please
enjoy.
eat up.
We'll see you back in 15 minutes.
Good. So this is my part of the program, and I'm just going to inspire you to do some easy gardening. If you don't have a yard, but maybe you have a deck or a porch or something that you can lay containers on. So it's kind of a container gardening segment more than anything. So the one challenge of growing in a container is, anybody want to guess what it is? Water. That's the number one thing. So if you're going to grow in containers, you can't go to the beach for the weekend. Or you hire a plant sitter. I think that's the next trend, don't you think? You know, we have dog sitters and things now, and babysitters, of course. I think the future is you could start your own business being a plant sitter, because everybody's concerned about their food anyway, so you could hire somebody, just make sure they come in while you're away. But watering is always a factor. And of course, when you're watering and you're constantly running that water through a container, what's happening to your nutrients? They're leaching out and leaving. So when you're growing in containers, you're going to have to follow with a regular fertilizer program of some type. So do your homework on the internet of different types of fertilizers that you can use. There's even a Lazy Man easy type of little granules. You find those little round balls in your containers sometimes. Those are little fertilizer pellets that slowly release fertilizer into your mixes. They're not organic, but they do a slow release. So that's a Lazy Man's method for fertilizing. So I'm going to roll through all of these containers and just throw some ideas at you. So the University of Maryland, at our Master Gardener booth, we have a flyer on salad boxes. And this is easy to make. I've made them at the Aero School. We had Master Gardeners that worked on a program with me with the kids. And let me tell you, those kids were fired up to get a drill in their hand. And they love a staple gun. Now, in the world we live in today, those are not the kind of tools. So maybe you ought to just do this with your grandchildren. But I went to the hardware stores, had them pre-cut my exact sizes of wood, so they were pre-cut, and then I pre-drill with these, and you have to mark your pieces so you know which corners go to which. So you're like A corner, B corner, C. And then the kids just run the drill and run the screws in to do the 4 corners. I did not make this one. This one's made out of cedar, which is not destructive like the pine boards that I use. Mine break down in about 3 years. But I've made them with kids. The bottom part, you just lay a layer. I usually put 2 layers of weed block in here. At the University of Maryland flyer, they're going to recommend you use screen. But I just use weed block. It's cheaper. I buy it at Ollie's, cheap stuff, you know. And then we just lay it over it. I have the kids tape it on the corner with masking tape. And then they have, whoop, that one fell apart. Ow!
Oh,
they're hardware
Jesus.
cloth. Whoop, stabbed me. Hardware cloth. I might need a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think you do.
I don't know why that came out. Anyway, it'll be fine. So the hardware cloth is a little bit harder to work with. So you're going to have to make sure you cut that. And if I'm working with kids, I will put duct tape around the rims of that before I usually hand staple it on the outside. This is another one that's been made by a master gardener. This is made by the same guy that made the salad table behind us. But another easy one, you sometimes think this is too shallow for containers, but it's not. Just a little 3-inch deep can really grow things like lettuce and things like, this is lettuce. I started dill. This container will not accommodate dill long term. I've got some kales in here and some spinaches on there. But definitely in a little shallow container like that, you can grow it on your porch. The nice thing about having salad greens close on your porch is you tend to eat them. You know, if you're eating a tuna fish sandwich, you can just go grab yourself a piece. So I highly recommend them. When we did them at the Aero School, we made like 6 or 7 containers, and the kids grew lettuce and greens and things. The nice thing about kids programs is they're still in school until June, so you're always working with cool season crops. The good thing about cool season crops is you're hard to get any insect damage on them. They haven't gotten out yet, you know. It has to be like 55 degrees for insects to emerge. And then these fabric pots, a bunch of you, we tossed them into the audience and gave you free gifts. These fabric pots are kind of an in thing now to grow in. Now they do make a mark. What's that? Ambulance. Oh, ambulance. And so the fabric pots dry out because the outside of the kit, it's not good. Thanks, Andy. How'd you do that, man?
I come prepared.
So the fabric pots dry out. There's a lot of air. There's a lot of airflow coming in and out of those. So it's definitely more work. But look at what's growing on that far right one. Thank you, Andy. I love you. This is a potato, and I'll show you how you cut up 3 potatoes over there. But the potatoes are easy in these. You know, one of the hassles of potatoes is digging them. So this makes it easy. I had a master gardener one year. She grew them in peach baskets. And she cut the bottom of the peach basket out, and she just sunk the peach basket in, so it was still utilizing the natural moisture from the bottom of the ground down in there. And that is a nice way to do it. Let your container like root into the ground. It can be helpful. Just make sure you tested your soil and it doesn't have lead in it, because you don't want at least once every 3 years, test your soil. But once you've tested once for lead, you don't have to test it anymore. But I like it when my containers sometimes attached to the ground. That's good. But potatoes in here, easy, nice and easy to harvest. I don't know what cultivar I planted, but that's miraculous that at this time of the year I could oh my golly. think it looks like, well, I did a little pruning just now. But I thought I saw some aphids on there. But I did 2 different kinds of garlic here. That's just regular garlic that Alice gave me. And this is an elephant garlic. You can intersperse things like lettuce seeds within your garlic. I didn't, because lettuce is just shallow-rooted small plants. So whenever you're planting things in your garden, sprinkle a few lettuce in and out of them. It makes it easier. This is one of my favorite things to do with youth. This is a bag of leaf grow. That's all. Whoops, sorry, Steph. Bag of leaf grow. That's all it is. And you can buy this at different hardware stores and places. Out here in the lobby, we have Veterans Compost. You really ought to consider supporting his business. He's a veteran that started his own business, just wanted a sustainable practice, and he takes food scraps from all kinds of businesses throughout Baltimore, and he makes compost out of food scraps. And it's been heated high enough that you don't have to be concerned about pathogens inside of it, because he monitors that all the time. It's located right in Aberdeen. We do master gardener tours there every other year or so, and he comes and talks to us. But just a bag like this, you can grow in. This one happens to be Leaf Grow, which is a brand that's made in Montgomery County from just grass clippings and leaves. So that's a nice compost. To be honest, Justin's compost is a little higher quality than that one is. And I've noticed that some of the bags, the compost that I've tried to do this in, some of them are not very nutritious. So you might experiment first if you're doing a youth program before you use that particular brand. And so let me roll this underneath the camera so everybody can see. But when I cut the bag, I'll just give you some tips. I did this at the Boys and Girls in Aberdeen probably 15 years ago with Jane Howe. She's in here today. We did this years ago. I think that was a group. Now, when you first put it down on the ground, I always like to level it out and get it even at the ends, because otherwise the plants that are on this end are only in 2 inches of soil, and these are in 4 inches of soil. So I lay it down and pound it out before the kids get there. I try to level it as well as I can. And then I don't put one straight slit down the side. At first I used to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And you know what the bag does? Yeah, it like splits open, which is kind of good because it allows sun to your seedlings like your radishes and your lettuce. But I find that it kind of falls out, and the groundskeepers at the schools, their weed whackers come around. They don't have a lot of respect. So I've learned I try to keep my soil in my bag. So I put lines like this and then leave a section of the bag that's not planted. So just, it's not rocket science. Yes. So on this one, I only did 3 lines. This is a little smaller bag than my leaf grow is. And I did radishes in this at the North Harford greenhouse. Shall I find a real chubby one for you? Where's the chubbiest one? Oh, this one. He's a chubby one. So there's my little radish. So remember, you can eat the foliage on radishes too, because that's what makes the spiciness in the microgreens. And so there's my little radish growing right in there. So pretty cool, easy, lazy man. And then when you're finished, you'll be like, oh, well, what do I do with the soil now? The truth is, if you lived in an apartment, I'd just go out on the lawn area and dump it out and spread it out a little on the lawn and take a broom, sweep it a few times. Hey, there, you didn't have to do much work disposing of that. Or if you have a vegetable garden, when I've taken them home before, I've put them in my vegetable garden. They're a little bit drained of nutrients, but still it's working for organic matter in my vegetable garden. But I love doing this method with any kind of program with youth. It's just downright fun. I would not use the same bag twice. That was my little brother. He can do that. I wouldn't use the same bag twice because the nutrition that's come out of it. I mean, what would you do, Andy? Would you use the same bag twice?
Probably not. I think it would probably fall apart too.
Yeah. Nutrition, they will have sucked the nutrition out. Yeah. So unless you're going to follow it with another kind of a liquid plant food. That's the virtue of doing this. I'm not using, this is on camera, I'm not using potting soils. And I'm not a strong proponent for buying potting soils. You know those bags that you can hardly pick up in the store? They're real heavy and they're wet. Usually that's not quality. When I'm using mediums in my containers, I'm always using things like, the girls are sitting on one there. There's a Lambert Company potting medium, and over here is another growing medium that they use at North Harford. So they come in these big cases. They're 3.2 cubic feet or 3.8 cubic feet. I buy it at the mill, but you can find them in other different farm supply areas. And they're pressed, they're dried, and there's no worms. When kids dip their hands into them, you don't find them, there's a bug in here. So they're nice and clean, and they're pasteurized so that there's not fungal diseases. They're lightweight, so I always recommend those for my mixes. The prime mix, the best thing you could do in these containers, better than just using that straight, is to mix 50% or maybe a third of a good quality compost. Justin's, did you see the name on this? He's calling it Blue Clef. He said he's trying to keep up with those people up in the Northeast. There's a company, they compost, how did you know? They have lobsters. They compost lobsters, and there's this huge market for this lobster compost. And he said, I'm going to get in the market, man. I'm going to sell blue crab compost. So he's going for it. So go over there. He's so casual, he'd probably give you a tour of that compost facility, knock your socks off, how he can roll compost through there in 2 months' time. And he takes every crab shell from the Sandy Point State Park when they have the crab feast down there. He brings them all out, and one day he's got them in a huge pile, adds chips and makes compost out of it. Doesn't even stink. It's amazing what he can do. But what was I talking about? Mediums. So mix a bag of this with maybe 3 equivalent bags of potting mix. Whoa, you got a perfectly nutritious mix right there without having to fertilize. And if you're growing a long-term crop like a tomato, you might have to supplement a little bit at the latter part of the season. But remember, when growing tomatoes, should you be giving it much fertilizer? What happens if you over-fertilize? It grows.
No tomatoes.
Yeah, it grows. But what, Andy?
You don't get a tomato.
You don't get a tomato. Why? Because that plant's saying,
It's too happy.
life is good, I'm on the beach. And I just don't, nothing bad is going to happen. I'm happy as a plant, and there's no reason to make any fruit. So if it's not fruiting, it's because you need to take a shovel to half the root system. Say, hey, wake up. By the way, life's not as good as you think, and it's time for you to get into action and produce some seed. And so it has to be scared. So that's another shortcoming of keeping your plants perfectly moist all the time. You need to kind of run a little stressor on it to say, look, reality check here, the season's coming to the end. You need to think about fruiting, because all plants will fruit when they think that they're coming to the end of their life cycle, because that's what they're programmed to do, is produce seeds. And so if anything fits, like I've had people come and say, my dogwood was gorgeous last year. You know, it had more flowers on it last year than it's ever had. I was like, yeah, that was it. That was the grand, because that's what they'll do. They'll produce tons of flowers the year before they die. Because that tends to be, they're created to reproduce. And so sometimes when they do that, it's a signal. Now, not always, but that has happened. Anyway, so buy a good quality soil medium. There's starter fertilizers already inside those bales that'll get you through really about 4 weeks. I'm finding, I started a lot of these at the end of January, and if I have long-term crops beyond, like the radishes were fine here, but if I start getting beyond that, I'm gonna still then start coming in with a liquid fertilizer. These containers, didn't you guys all get one of these? You got one of these today, right? So this is great. All you have to do is put a liner trash bag inside of it. That's all you need to do, put a little liner in it. Poke a couple holes in the bottom of your liner. You can grow in these. Another one, good for potatoes. Here's my failed lettuce. I tried this one at the office, but it dried out over the weekend and I didn't water it. So this is another foolproof container. This is called an earth grow box. So it's got a suspended bottom inside of it. So you've got this container and then this platform. You can make these out of a 5-gallon bucket. At the University of Maryland, we have a flyer that tells you how to make a self-watering bucket. And it's got a little tube here. This is where the water goes in. There's my tube in that one. So you just add your water in there, and the pool stays underneath. The roots of the plant go down inside. And when I say easy to grow, they provide fertilizer with it, and they also provide you like a bathing cap for the top of it. So Ronnie put in, Ron, I think she did 4 peppers in it last year. When University of Maryland, no, my 4-H kids went to Mississippi for a conference. And when we were down there, the man had 50 of these. And he gave us a plant talk. He grows year-round in Mississippi for the farmer's market in 50 of these in his little backyard. And he has automatic trickles in them. He puts 2 tomatoes in them or 4 peppers, and he grows for a farmer's market solely in earth grow boxes. His were all brand earth grow. There's many other brands. They come with casters so you can put them on your deck. So this is one that doesn't mark up your deck as much. And the fertilizer comes, and just follow the directions. They tell you exactly what to do. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like the grow boxes. I think pretty nifty. And then you can do containers. This is just a standard window box. That's all this is. It's my bok choy. So what is it called when it goes to flower at the wrong time of the year? Very good. You guys ought to be in classes. Yeah, good you be teachers. Bolting. Call it bolting. So do you eat your vegetable when it bolts? It's going to be a little bitter because all the energy is being expended in making new seeds. So you've lost your flavor. So when a plant bolts, it's usually what I already tell you. It's stressed. It's going to die. So it thinks, life's getting close to the end. So why did he bolt? He was in a warm greenhouse, and it's a cool season crop. And he was thinking, he was afraid. Something scared him, and he's bolting. If you buy little stressed out spinach and things in the garden center, and they're kind of dried out, you know what could happen when you plant them in your garden? They bolt. They don't grow. They just bolt. It's nothing you did. It's what they did in the greenhouse. So that's why you need to buy good quality plants. You go to those box stores, you don't know what they've done to them. But if you go to a greenhouse, sometimes you can at least rely on good care. This is just milk crates. I love growing my potatoes in these with for kids programs. Anything in one of these, I just fill it with soil and then just take a little knife or fork, stick in it. I love growing in them. This is a novelty. We have 2 or 3 master gardeners that have grown in straw bales. It's a water trap. You have to make sure you season it. You got to run at least 2 weeks of water through it to get it to decompose. This was a year-old bale, and I just stuffed some lettuce in it to show you guys. So it's not something that's my deal because I don't want to have to be watering and be a slave to that. But some of our master gardeners do like growing. She's grown in straw bales year after year. So if you end up with lettuce, some of you might want to go to a class on salad dressing. We were talking about this earlier. There's a Harford Community class coming up on June 18th on summer vegan cooking class. So you can look that up. One of the ladies just came to me earlier, was talking about that. But anyway, straw bales, another little fad of gardening.
Joyce, what about this stuff back here?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I forgot. So this is vertical garden. If you don't have space on your porch and patio, there you go, vertical. This is radish. This is too small to grow radishes. I did it anyway. I don't remember what that is. Kale, I got some onions, dill, kale, little containers. Again, going to take an awful lot of watering, but it gives you a vertical aspect. Show them this. This is a University of Maryland salad table, which is, again, you can grow greens in it. And it's nice for seniors who don't have the ability to lean over and bend. So a nice growing table. You can grow lots of lettuce and spinach and things in these containers. Is that all of them then, Andy?
The wheelbarrow, too.
Oh, you can do a wheelbarrow. You need an old one, though. Why? It needs a leak. You gotta have a drain. You gotta have a drain on it. All right, so where are we going from here? We're going to our next.
Greenhouse.
So what? Oh, Melanie, come on up. So this Harford Glen got a greenhouse like 10 years ago when I was working early at Extension. They said, come look at our greenhouse. I went and looked at it. I was like, I said, wow, that's, you don't have any water. Oh, you don't have any heat either. I'm like, what good is that? So they have a greenhouse. So Jeff put their greenhouse up in the back here so they can see what their greenhouse looks. I was like, this is destiny of this one. We'll see what they can do with this. So there it is. It's 20 feet long, 8 foot wide. And I have been educated because I didn't really think that greenhouse would ever work. And so tell them, well, let's do our actual first question first. Why do you actually grow lettuce at Harford Glen in this greenhouse? Why do you do that, Melanie? This is Melanie Kane, Master Gardener and Educator at Harford Glen Education Center.
So we mainly work with 5th graders, and we have the greenhouse. We grow lettuce with them, mainly to teach them that growing food is fun and it's easy and that anybody can do it. But we connect it back to the sustainable practices. All of our action plans are focused on the sustainable practices, one of which is growing your own food. So we have the students engaged in planting seeds, potting up lettuce, harvesting lettuce, And then we ask them to, think about why it's better for the environment. And getting them to come back to the idea that your food travels across the globe frequently and uses a lot of fossil fuels, so it's not efficient. Also getting them to understand, a lot of times they come up with the idea that if you grow your own food, it reduces the packaging that comes with food. So that's a big one, and they always come up with that on their own. And then also they always come up with the idea that they know what's going on in their food, then, chemical-wise, what's being put on your food. You don't know if you're getting it from the grocery store. So those are their main takeaways from it.
All right, and how long? How long have you been growing in that green, or how long's your season of growing?
So we start growing usually in September when we start getting kids, and we grow straight through the school year until June.
And how do you pull that off on 7-degree nights?
So we have a little tiny heater. It's about this big. There's our heater. It's literally this
high
big.
end, man. And how often do you monitor it?
When I saw that picture, I laughed.
I know he did. He did. I said, Andy, he goes, they heat that greenhouse with that thing? I said, yeah, on 7-degree nights, I kid you not, they had lettuce this winter with that little devil running.
We did. It works. Yeah, we don't monitor it. We just turn it on and let it go.
I asked him, I said, how do you know what your temperature is? What do you mean? Oh, that's right. That's right, Ruth. We do have
a gauge, a temperature gauge, but we don't
haven't
really
read it.
check it.
So the lesson is, maybe you have a little greenhouse at home that you start seedlings in. You can be pumping out some lettuce in that. If you can position it in a place where it's facing that south side of the house, and maybe not the whole winter long if it's a pre-puny one like this, but you might be able to just run a little heater. Things that are easy to grow. Tommy at Third Way Farm was growing arugula like crazy in his greenhouses. So you can grow crops in your little greenhouses. You guys need to try some arugula if you like
I've
it.
done
It's an unusual
arugula
flavor.
there before. We did a harvest last week. We try to harvest once a week, and last week's harvest was 3 pounds of lettuce. So that was pretty good harvest. And we're currently growing. Yeah, there's some of our lettuce. We have peppers, tomatoes, some flowers. So we not only grow just lettuce for which they normally would eat at Harford Glen, but right now we're shipping it out to the school cafeterias. But then we also grow other plants like tomatoes, peppers, some flowers for school gardens. So if a school wants to grow plants for their garden, we start the seedlings and then we deliver it to them.
So how long have you been using that particular greenhouse?
So we've had it for at least 10 years, 10 plus years, and the life expectancy is 10 years, and the poor greenhouse is
And
showing.
according to Joyce, it was life expectancy was what? Nothing?
Yeah, I told him, I said, as soon as you open that vent on that thing and went to go pick that thing up, you're going to have busted vents. So have you had broken vents?
We have had panels come off, but they pop back on. The problem is now is that it's obsolete, so we can't get replacement parts. So we are currently looking for a grant or funds to purchase a new greenhouse and try to get all of the students in there. Right now I can fit about 6 to 8 students in there at a time. That's a tight squeeze, but we do it, and they love it. They come out of class just so excited that they worked in the greenhouse.
Yeah. And that's teaching the next generation.
If
That's
anybody knows of any grants, contact me, please.
She needs
'cause
money.
We need money.
All right, girl, good. Glad to have you in here.
All right,
so
thank
you
you.
guys use your little greenhouses, or if you have cold frames to extend your season. Come on, Steven, get up here. Steve. So our next one, Andy and I was working on my computer. It was having problems, and so they called the University of Maryland IT guy, and he's there working on my computer, and before you know it, he whips out his phone. He goes, look at these, and he's showing off all these tomatoes. I'm like, what? You're doing what? I'm like, dude, you're doing this in your yard? I said, are you a garden? I was like, Andy could hear me down the hallway.
Down the hall, I could hear
I was
Joyce.
like,
Oh my
I was like, are you serious? You're growing hydroponics in your yard? And the question was, why? So we brought Steve here to tell you why. So why are you growing hydroponics? Let's show them how you do it. Why do you do it, Steve?
I'm lazy.
You do what? Why?
Well, I hate doing soil tests.
Okay, well,
Right. And I hate weeding. And I don't grow very good tomatoes in soil. They're beautiful.
I can vouch.
And then I get,
He sent a picture.
yeah, they're beautiful, and then I get this blossom end rot or some other problem, right? And So I had grown tomatoes indoors. They opened a Harbor Freight in Frederick, and that's a huge mistake for men. I bought a bunch of LED lights cheap and started growing plants indoors, and I started a bunch of tomatoes in 5-inch or 4-inch peat pots. And they were growing fast, and I didn't know where I was going to put them, and I didn't really feel like doing a soil test and doing all that other stuff. So I was looking for alternatives. One of the alternatives that I found on YouTube was growing them in water, hydroponic solution. So that's what I did. I got these. My father-in-law worked for Safeway for years. In his garage, I found a lot of these buckets. I cut a hole in the top. I'm too cheap to buy this is the proper thing you use, the cup that you use for hydroponics. They're expensive.
Gotta show you this.
So I went to the dollar store and bought these and cut the bottom out of them, and they fit in there pretty well, right? And I filled the bucket with hydroponic solution. I took the 5-inch peat pots and shoved them down in there, filled it up till it was just touching the bottom. And within about 3 or 4 days, the tomatoes realized that there was solution with nutrients in it and started to grow down. And next thing I know, the tomatoes are growing and
Send it up, show the audience his tomatoes, because once you see it, okay, there's this, he's not just growing tomatoes, so stay there for a minute. What else did you do hydroponically?
Just about everything. And
I could tell.
well, once I saw how the tomatoes were growing, I started putting everything in buckets.
So talk to them.
And you can see I've got
Lazy.
Folgers coffee cans. I've got the dishwasher tab containers. I cut holes in.
You don't want to live next door to him?
My wife.
Looks like a trash dump.
It does. It really looks bad. My wife has a bin fetish, so she's always buying bins, right? And we've got bins everywhere. So I started cutting holes in the tops of bins and putting them in there. So everything will grow in this, just about everything. The only thing you have to be a little careful is some things grow a lot faster and a lot more aggressive at pulling the nutrient out. So you don't want to put a slow plant in with a fast plant, or you could have problems. But
the one worry is, so you got to have a constant nutrient feed. How are you doing that nutrient thing?
Well, that's, I use what's called the Kratky method. And the Kratky method was invented by a guy, I think at Stanford, B.A. Kratky, in which you fill it up to the edge of the bottom of the cup so that the roots detect the nutrition, start growing in it. Then it just starts to work its way down. Unfortunately, these buckets are really too small. So when I do it this year, I'm using larger buckets. Because the average tomato plant will probably use about 50 gallons of liquid in a course of a growing season.
He knows because he measured it.
Geek.
Yeah, so
Plant geek.
I know
He
because
knows
I had to keep
55
refilling
gallons.
these buckets all the time. One other thing you do with these, because I did it outside, and I didn't know you couldn't do hydroponics outside, I just did it, is if it rains, of course, your bucket's going to fill up with water, and you can drown your plants. So I didn't do it in this one, but if you look at the pictures, I'm not allowed to look.
Put up the next one. Spin the next tomato one. Wait till you look at that.
You drill holes in the side of the
That's
bucket.
what I
See the
wanted to
holes
hear.
in the side of the bucket? That way, if the rain fills up your bucket, it runs out the side. Or if I need to top it off, I just do it until it starts running out the side.
Did you go on vacation this summer?
I did, 2 weeks. My poor neighbor was filling those buckets every day. So
You need a plant sitter.
Yeah.
So what keeps them from falling over?
the
tomato's
weight,
pretty
well,
big.
liquid's pretty heavy. And you can see I have strings going up to a thing over top. You can see, oh, sorry. You can see I have strings growing up. I did mine with the string method, and that's just independent of hydroponics. A lot of people like to do it with a string from overhead. I think it's a great way to do it. When I do it again this year, I'm going to make sure I'm down to one stem and do a little better
So
pruning.
he's going to prune his tomatoes. And if you're not familiar with pruning, you're removing suckers.
Right.
So,
And keep it at one stem.
So-
You get better tomatoes that way.
all right, he's going to be here for a question-answer session at the end. So I know that's going to prompt questions because I was It was jaw-dropping the first time. I was like, work on my computer. And he's like, well, let me show you my babies, my pictures. You know, I was like, work on my computer. So, all right, Steve, we're going to be with you during question and answer. So now let's do some final. We're coming to the close of our symposium. Let me do some thank yous. Anybody see my brochures, my papers? Oh, thanks, Andy. That's what you're here for. So I just want to do some official thank yous. Could you, Jeff, pull up those Master Gardener? We've had at least 37 Master Gardeners who helped us with this program. So I just want to say my thank yous to them. Flick up, there's 2 green ones, Jeff. One of them. Oh, that's right, I got to do milk jugs.
Joyce, you got to do your milk jugs.
Sarah, come on up here. Thank you. Bring your scissors. Everybody that leaves the symposium today is going to get a milk jug. And so we had a milk jug competition that took place so that I was guaranteed to have something green on the stage because I was pretty nervous about it. The #1 milk jug today went to Elizabeth Jutras. Elizabeth. So Beth Jutras, she got first place down here. Second went to Brandon Hone. Brandon Hone is one of your students. He's one of the students at North Harford at the Hobby Greenhouse. And Sarah, you won one of the awards up here. Your lettuce came in 3rd place. She's one of our students from North Harford High that we've been working with. And Amy Wells, which is another Melanie Kane student, won 4th place. So congratulations. When you guys leave, check with Alice. She'll have gifts for you. This is lettuce, and different, mostly all lettuces. Nobody grew any arugula.
I mean, there's not milk in there?
Oh, there's no milk. No. So when you're using a recycled milk jug, make sure you rinsed it 3 times before planting. And the ones you take home, I think you're getting mostly clean ones. Anyway, if not, just rinse it out twice. So you guys line up in a row here, show your milk jugs. Sarah's going to show you, get directions. You probably can all take 2 milk jugs with you. You can sow these. I would normally say you could sow them today, but you know they're predicting pretty drastic weather next week. So why don't you wait till next Saturday to sow these when you take them home. They're going to give you a milk jug. It's going to look like what the kids are holding here. These are the FFA students from North Harford High. They've been taking care of some of my plants while I'm not there every day. So Sarah, show them how they're going to do this. You're underneath the camera.
Yeah, is this, okay, it's working.
Yep.
Okay, so you'll take your scissors and like.
Don't stab yourself like Joyce.
I can make no promises.
Oh, you can't open because they're not cut. Yeah, she won't, yeah, you'll stab
So you'll stab them and there's a hole right here. And then just take your scissors and cut around. Usually you can use a marker to draw them.
Yeah, if you want a marker to kind of draw your line. If you're doing it with your grandkids or doing it with kids, I do kind of mark it first. Well, you probably can't put scissors in their hands.
Some adults do.
What's that, Andy?
I said, and some adults.
So I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to stop right here. Oh, oops. Yeah.
So what's your objective?
So it's to make a handle so that you can bend it back this way.
And then in your jug that you're going to receive, there's a bag of potting mix in there. It's one of these soil mediums that I told you about. You're just going to sprinkle it. Oh, we got one more thing to do.
Yeah, so then you got to fold down here. And don't cut my fingers, please.
I know, she doesn't trust me. I wonder why.
And then here,
So,
and then here.
If you fold it like this, it's the easiest way in the world to cut it. You ought to see even the master gardeners, they're struggling. I'm like, just make it easy. Just fold it once and just whack, cut. It's really very easy. You don't even have to have 4 holes, but 3. So that's the gist of it. Now, it's going to be cold. It could still be cold in the next few months. If you want to look it up on the internet, it's called winter sowing. That's what they call this. I just call it milk jug because that's what it is. But we put your potting soil, you sprinkle your seeds. Lettuce is one of the seeds that doesn't need to be covered. It can be right on the surface. If you want to sprinkle a little dry mix on it. And then I duct tape it just once to keep it closed. I do these programs at the senior centers and just let them all do it. And then we put them outside, the Catholic Center there in Abingdon. I do it with them, and then we just sit them all out on the patio and porch. You let the snow, you let the rain go in, and you let the plant seed itself determine when it wants to grow. The duct tape just keeps it closed so the wind doesn't grab it and carry it off the patio. But I leave these vents so it can vent out. As soon as you see your seeds germinate, you open it up a little bit and let it stay open a couple days, and then you eat right out of it. So, Sarah, which one's yours? Can we eat your lettuce?
Yeah, you can. I don't know which one it is.
Oh, what happened to it?
You wrote our names on
This
the
one.
side of them.
Well, let me take this. Oh, that's the second. Oh, Sarah. So when you're harvesting, you harvest the outermost leaves. So you would just pinch off the outside so that you can keep the center growing ones more active.
You're
So
telling
that's,
me that one? That looks sad.
oh, you got an award for it, girl. So that's it. So say thank you to these wonderful FFA kids. And go ahead and hand those to somebody in the audience. Go ahead and hand those scrubs out to somebody in the audience. Thanks for coming up. Now, Jeff, spin those 2 slides so we can thank the master gardeners. I had so many crews of MGs that were helping me. I had road delivery crews. I thank a special thanks to Greg. He had a couple FFA kids that went to the greenhouses. Andrew at Foxborough gave us let us borrow his citruses. These are kumquats, if you don't know what they are. Kumquats in the background, some lemons and oranges and things. So thanks to Greg for those deliveries. Thanks to the Miss Edwards at North Harford High School who gave me the space in the greenhouse. And then all these master gardeners who had to haul all this from North Harford over here with me, and then they worked my team crews on here. Flick to the next one. I got timekeepers, the garden gallery of photos that preceded the whole thing that was done by master gardeners, and just counsel from all of them. So I thank all of you because this could have never taken place without all of you.
Yeah, we're going to just do the wrap up for the film, and then we're going to answer some questions. So again, please continue to come to HCC for continuing ed, for a full-time day, for whatever we're putting on here. This is your community college.